And we're live. Hello and welcome to the 229th episode of Hex Therapy Live. I'm your host, Maddie Allen. I've got a great show for you tonight. I guess we're going to be talking about some of the drama on Pulse Chain. So that'll be fun and maybe get into some game theory and that kind of stuff. So hopefully the construction going on behind me is not going to interfere with the stream and hopefully, I don't burn alive in this hot Texas weather, but here we go. Anyway, yeah, so it seems like a lot of people were, really, a lot of people have been appreciating the fact that I had to make the difficult decision to remove Kareem from the show that we've been doing together for quite some time. Um, as I laid out in my announcement of that, it was a long time coming. Where a lot of people who watched the show, uh, you know, they said that it was unwatchable because they would never get to hear from me or Crispy or Fast Abdul, and so yeah, like eventually I just had to listen to people, and so the plan that we had started off with on Tuesday was to start at an earlier time because we wanted a chance to be able to talk about some different things uh, before Kareem would dominate the show. And yeah, but he ended up like showing up early and like didn't get the hint and that kind of thing. So um, yeah, like I guess the thing that was the most triggering to me was during an incident where I had provided instructions to people for how to claim their PDI token, their PDI airdrop. Um, I was explaining that the first instruction is that you need to download the instructions so that you don't have to rely on a middleman. And as I was saying that, Medium went down, and so I was trying to bring up the instructions, and I couldn't bring them up on the website because you know because of exactly what I was trying to teach people, and so it was an incredibly teachable moment, and so I was pleased to be able to describe like this is what a sacrifice is. This is the reason why you have downloadable DeFi. This is the reason why these instructions are teaching you how to claim your own coins without a front end, because those are like that's true DeFi. And I think that a lot of projects don't prioritize that. And so, like I was taking a hard stance on the whole a sacrifice is a sacrifice and true DeFi is true DeFi. And to my surprise, Kareem takes the opposite stance. And even though we encourage disagreement on the show, there are some things that we hold sacred. It's like if we can't agree what DeFi is, and that like having downloadable instructions is a good thing, and like you know being able to use the blockchain without a front end that relies on a middleman, that's a good thing. And so it totally caught me off guard. The Kareem had gone from saying that he would buy a PDI airdrop or like a fix that would stop exploiting the chain. And then 2 weeks later, he's trash talking the the fact that we didn't make it easier for people to claim, which like that was not that was not his call. And so but I think the thing that triggered me the most was he left thousands of people abandoned when he promoted Staker app and got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so. And so he's coming at me because I can't help. I can't because like the Medium site went down. He's coming at me for making things difficult, which I did on purpose as a part of game theory. But for him, he stranded thousands of people, and well, like tens of thousands of people, and then he has the audacity to come at me about instructions whenever he's the one who could have done a better job and has failed to uh, give people the support that they need for the thing that he profited from getting them into. It's like on my end, I didn't profit from PDI, and uh, yeah. So anyway, my DM. Oh, did my internet cut out there? Okay, hopefully you can still hear this. So my DMs were flooded with people who were like celebrating the move to remove Kareem, like I said before, and this is something that people have been asking me for ever since we brought him back on the show. Part of bringing him back on the show was that you know, even though we know Kareem is like an extremely selfish person, and like if you've ever interacted with him in real life, like he probably made you pay for something. Uh, Type of thing, where you probably got to witness his greed firsthand and selfishness. But yeah, I mean, like he's a good salesman for Hex, and that's cool. But yeah, most of the time he was just trying to dominate the conversation with things that the audience already knew about. So he wasn't really in touch with the audience, and that's why this has been such a popular move amongst people who actually watch the show. People who watch the most, you know, the most popular technical show in Pulse Chain and Hex is Game Theory Gang on Tuesday nights, and it's been running for 229 weeks continuously. And we've had people come and go on the show. We had David Feeder and K for K for a couple months. We had Whales Only for a year. We had Kareem for a year, plus like the past half a year, um, that kind of stuff. So um, yeah, and now there are some people who don't watch the show who are being particularly vocal. People who they launch their own copycat versions of stuff, and they have their own motives. Basically, the traders who they. I'm not sure that I would trust the traders to say like who is a scammer, because oftentimes uh, they aren't reporting on the facts of what happens on blockchain. They're reporting on their own bag bias, and they'll talk shit about anybody that doesn't lead people to the slaughter for them. So um, yeah, I mean, like a lot of people called Richard Hart a scammer when he launched Hex, and you know that wasn't the case. But a lot of people said, "Where did the ETH go?" Um, and that kind of like relates a lot to like the criticism that's happened with Maddie Token, the criticism that's happened with Good Die, is that people they think that they own something even after they swap it for something else, and so that's interesting to me, that people understand things so poorly. Um, but part of being a good leader is, even when people don't understand, you still, do your best to show up and to educate. That's something that Richard Hart does too. So, um, yeah, like, and a lot of people, they love to hate. But yeah, that's just part of the game, and that doesn't bother me anymore. If there's one thing I've learned is like, I been on the phone today with lots of people. I've gotten tons of messages of people who say, we support you. We've been watching you from day one. The people who are messaging like you're a scammer, blah blah blah. Like they're anons who have not been with me for 5 years, and so I think very little of of what they say. And honestly, they're probably just giving lots of free engagement and marketing and stuff. Um, you know, they're helping a lot more than they think. You know, when you um, when you actually do encounter something that's a scam, you shut up about it and you ghost it. And but what we're seeing here is, a lot of people they have a lot of self interest, and I'm pretty impressed with Sami on this one, um, because Sami, I think, well, even though I haven't watched all of his videos lately, the clip that I saw, I think he treated it very fairly. Um, and he has a huge bag bias, and so I'm very impressed with that. And that's something where when you're a broadcaster and you're a bag holder, oftentimes that can conflict. And so I'm a little surprised and very impressed with him. Maddie, we know you don't give the trolls any attention. Yep, that's right. Maddie, you have my full support. Appreciate it. Um, Why not address the criticism instead of attacking the deliverers? You know, something that I probably shouldn't, well, something that maybe I shouldn't have done is I went on Twitter Spaces and I addressed like the drama, and sometimes I'm really bad at recapping something, or like talking about something for a second time, which is why usually I only like like I would say 99 point well 97% of my crypto discussions are recorded, because then I know that there's a full record, and I don't then I can like mark in my mind like what's been said and what hasn't, because I just say everything on record, and so I don't know if I'll have to maybe like go through that 7 hour stream or whatever it was and like clip something, um, to be able to get that information out there. I mean, maybe I can try to like recap like what the criticisms are and like what the responses are. But I do know that that's a limitation. It's hot as shit out here. It's like, oh, I'll have a live stream in the sun where I know I have good internet here. Um, okay, address the criticism. Let me think. So, um, yeah, so there's criticism about um like how hard it is to claim these like free airdrop tokens that were airdropped to a set of users who sacrifice to the Pulse X OA. So like anybody saying that like I've profited from something, well, first of all of the tokens um, went to the Pulse X sacrifice address, which I am not the owner of. I don't know if Richard is or not, but I know that I do not have those keys. And so I think that creates like a really interesting game theory of like, what if this project becomes successful? Maybe it like goes down a lot in the first week or two or month, like Hex did, and then maybe it goes up a lot if people like it, and then um, yeah, and then like maybe someday if it's so successful, maybe the OA would take the funds that have been uh, sacrificed, and maybe we would do a buyback. Who knows? Um, so anybody who's telling you like, I stole a bunch of money from a sacrifice, like, well, that's obviously a lie, because you can see on chain that the sacrifice address was the Pulse X SAC address. Um, yeah, people criticize that it was like really that it's hard to claim the tokens, and like my answer for that is, um, yeah, it is hard, and you think you think that claiming Hex in the free claim was easy? I had to learn how to use an Electrum wallet and sign a Bitcoin transaction. That was risky as shit. And it only gave you 10,000 hex per one Bitcoin that you signed with. And, I was signing with my life savings of 3 Bitcoin at the time. Um, yeah, so that was scary as shit. And this is way easier, I think. Well, it's a similar level of difficulty, but that's part of what, like, let's take a look at what worked and let's do that. Let's combine all the things that ever worked. There's an idea. So, um, yeah, another thing Kareem was doing, he was saying that the sacrifice was not a sacrifice, and that I had to give people instructions. So we were arguing about like whether I work for the sacrificers or not, and that was also like creating a bunch of legal risk and like um, false information for no reason. Like I don't know if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day or what, but um, that was not normal. So um, what else? Criticism. Um, oh, people say like that I rugged the chart of the new coin because it went from 3 cents to $2.66, and then it went down from there. Well, people were saying that before the fixer bot even did anything. First of all, uh, everybody, is fully transparent what the game was in the first 7 days before all the unlocks happened, and so um, like like take I mean take any token for example, like there was a bestie token that Fashion Coder launched, and that chart did $1 million of volume on day one and like very little volume ever after. And people called her a scammer so much that she like quit making content for the community. And you know who made money off that was traders. She made no money off of it. And the chart still went up like crazy and then went down crazy. That's because a lot of things in crypto are just pump and dump, scam, one off things. And you have to get really creative if you want to do something different. Um, Maddie token is a good example where, um, like it went from $1 to $10 on the first day, and it stopped at $10 because it was known that there would be a sell wall at $20. Because wouldn't it be funny if there was a $20 stablecoin meme? And the traders, they only want a 2x, and so they stop buying when they know they can't get a 2x left. And so so you have to ask yourself, like, is it right, like if there's a liquidity provider who wants to be benevolent to the people who are holding long term? Because like what happens normally in these things is that the broadcaster who talks about it, they're just feeding their audience into the meat grinder, and either they're profiting from it or traders are profiting from it. But the long term believer is the person who gets fleeced and doesn't get anything. And so, Maddie token is a good example of, oh, well, the liquidity provider, like put aside a little bit of the liquidity when it did a 5x and when it did a 10x. And so somebody who bought at $1 could still sell at $10, and there was no front running. There's, like, it was like, actually, one of my best friends was sitting next to me, and uh, when I was, announcing it, and he is not like very good at DeFi, or like he doesn't have as much experience, and I don't think he could even buy Matty token until like $3 or $5 or something. I didn't buy any at a dollar, and um, so there are people who participated for less than a day, and they got a 10x, and it was known that the game was it can't really go above $10 because, or at least can't go above 20 because, like, that was a stated plan. And yeah, so what we end up seeing is like that most of the crying is done by people who they would have happily, you know, sold on a 10x in a day and walked away with somebody else's money, like winning the trade, let's say, because it's not really somebody else's money, but that's how they think about it. Is like, they're profiting from a player versus player game. Whereas, like, when you have some liquidity that's set aside that you have no expectations of, and that is in an asset that can appreciate in value, and if that address like starts to have a history of buying back the tokens at a higher price, that's an extremely benevolent, cool thing. That's what we see in the Hex OA, the Pulse chain, and the Pulse X OA. That's what they do. That's what works to make something into not just a player versus player game, but something where everybody who's long-term minded can win, even without new buyers. It's really cool. It's like the coolest thing in crypto, in my opinion. One of the coolest things is this model that that is being experimented with by the OA, by by these different entities. Like, so yeah, it's a really cool thing. And like, for some reason, very few people understand it. Which I guess that's the nature of like being early to something or like doing something innovative. Um, but yeah, people talk shit, and so there's been like um, there's been like a buyback of Matty token at $5, even when the price was much lower, and people try to say like, oh, there's no liquidity. Well, yeah, that's the point, because you don't want to sell cheap tokens to new people, because that's not the play. The play is you don't need new buyers, and maybe someday this benevolent address will buy back the entire supply at $20, even though nobody has ever paid more than $10 for the token. That's cool. Um, and so, yeah, it did get to a point where liquidity was added not too long ago, and bought back like $30,000 worth of tokens. I think that's happened a couple times. And so the people who are complaining about low liquidity, like they um, were not the ones who I don't know how anybody can say that they got stuck in the trade, because you could have sold on day one for a 10x. Um, you could have bought when it was under a dollar and sold for $5 later on. Like, uh, it's just a lot of hate, and there's a lot of hate that I get just because people see me as one of the top um, broadcasters in the space. Um, and I don't view myself as the number one. But B Roots like accused me of that today or something. Um, I think I just put in the most work uh, when it comes to organizing conferences for 5 years. setting the world record for the most YouTubers live on one screen, streaming every week, even when I was, in a severe car accident, um, for 229 weeks straight, every Tuesday and Thursday night. I've done many 24-hour and 48-hour streams. I've fought a legal battle I didn't have to in South Carolina to make it so that Hex would not, that the SEC case wouldn't get lost as easy, or that like it wouldn't affect that. Um, I didn't have to do any of that stuff. And in a lot of cases, I would have made more money and suffered less hate if I just played from the sidelines. But that's not how I'm built. That's when I don't believe in like expecting somebody else to do the work for me. Um, but a lot of people out there, that's what they want, and that's maybe that's another lesson that'll get learned from this PDI thing. It's like um, I'm not going to be the only one talking about it. Um, so everybody else can participate or not, but it's probably going to be unpopular. But there's a lot of things that Richard has done that's been unpopular, and people that I look up to, they don't always do the popular thing, and that's one sign of true leadership. Um, so yeah, I expect more criticism to keep happening with the new PDI thing. Probably more people are going to call me a scammer, and that is sometimes that's how you know you're doing something innovative. Um, if somebody can show me a transaction that has ever happened where the Maddie origin address or anything with Maddie token or anything with PDI has been bridged out, has been sold, like sold in a way that has been an extraction on the system instead of supporting the system, I would love to see that because it doesn't exist. Hit the like and subscribe if you're new to Pulse Chain. I am burning up. It is hot out here. I'm gonna look like Richard Nixon sweating bullets well, he wasn't innocent. That's a bad example. All right, guys, let me see if I can carry this indoors. I don't think I'm gonna survive the heat over here. So just entertain yourselves. Oh, hey, great view, huh? My my friend had an you know I get the luxury of using some of the amenities here. That is way better. The temperature has gone down like 20 degrees. Whew. I think the community loved all of that and would probably even support you financially in these endeavors. The community seems to see these token launches as less transparent. Yeah, well, we can thank we can thank the corrupt SEC for like making it so hard to be really clear about certain things. But even though that's the case, I think also sometimes when you roll something out to a market, it's better to reward the people who are doing more research. Like part of the problem with all of crypto has always been how do you make it so that the people who are early don't so that there's enough benefit for people who come later. And in Hex we call that leaving meat on the bone, and Hex does a really good job of it. But when you look at what made Hex successful, one of the biggest things was starting with only 5,000 people. If you had started with 120,000 people like you did in Pulse Chain, you might end up with returns in Hex that had only done as good as Pulse Chain. So, but part of, yeah, I think part of the goal of the sacrifice was to make it not too popular, and that's what happened. There were only 222 transactions, and that represented maybe 130 to 150 different wallets. Yeah, so there's somebody being disrespectful in the comments, um, maybe because they uh, have been treated poorly by others, or you know, have a lot of stuff going on in their life. So first of all, I wish you well, and I hope that life treats you a little bit better. But the question, I think, somewhere in there is about RH's tweet about like, hey, you know, somebody could do an airdrop. And that's another thing that people have criticized me for. It's like saying, well, why wasn't it an airdrop to current holders? And I think, first of all, it's really cool that RH was tweeting so much during our episode of Game Theory Gang, so much so that it seemed like he was addressing maybe things we were saying in real time. We don't know. Um, you know, it was a huge coincidence, at least. And so so that's cool. But yeah, so I was brainstorming in real time with Sami and Kareem and the rest of the gang, and I said something about an airdrop, and then RH tweets something about an airdrop a couple minutes later, um, and yeah, so that was the starting point for all of this. And then I talked to like 100 people in the community. And the number one issue that people had was to say that if you airdrop the people who already have tokens, even if some small percentage, like 10% of them, sell the new token for the old token, the broken PDI, then that would make the problem worse of Pulse Chain being seen as having an exploit because there is an inflation bug in PDI that has caused the uh, you know caused the number of tokens to go from like 6 billion to like 27 billion or something. I think Bretep tweeted about that today. Um, so yeah, so that wasn't an option to just to do that, and so yeah, so we had to come up with a better game theory of what to do, and the game theory ended up being so good that depending on how you measure it, there was something like $900,000 sacrificed, or maybe 350,000, again depending on like what you see as having value. Um, but yeah, so I think that that's a good example of how people are criticizing, oh, why wasn't it the type of airdrop that RH talked about? Well, let's let's go into that a little bit deeper. Um, what's the kind of airdrop that you guys got that started the whole chain? Oh, it was a sacrifice and then you got an airdrop. Oh, okay. So it wasn't giving holders of something already. Well, it kind of was that too, with the fork, but you know, it's very easy, I would say, to argue that, like which type of airdrop was RH talking about? Was he talking about a pulse chain type of airdrop where there's a sacrifice, or is he talking about forking a system state and like that kind of thing? And it could have been either, but one uh, had really bad game theory that wouldn't have worked, and the other one works well. So if you're making the argument that I did not do the thing that RH suggested, I think you have a very weak argument because uh, because uh, in reality, I don't think that he would have suggested such a losing strategy. Digital Money Marcus, who is a super positive and helpful commenter in the chat, uh, good dude, says, Maddie, I appreciate the effort to bring our community together from all sides of the debate. It's a tough job, but the effort is recognized. Thank you. Yeah, so airdrop all the non-exploiters. Yeah, okay, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so that was the starting point, and that wouldn't have worked. So yeah, um, but the fact that I was brainstorming on the show live, and then he tweeted something that seemed to be in support of the idea I had, gave me the impression that that I should keep brainstorming and I should come up with the best idea. And that's what this represents. And as I said, I had input from 100 people, and that was their number one concern that got addressed. And I understand that it upset people who thought that they were going to get free money. But everybody had a fair opportunity to participate. And once the 2 million tokens become unlocked through users claiming them from their vaults, then we'll see, if the price is much lower after this week. And then maybe people get a good entry that way. I invited Sami back, and he didn't didn't respond, even though he had opened up, DMs with me and sent a video or something. He said something where he said that he was thinking about coming back on, but it might have been that he just like kind of got burnt out about talking about it, or he um, like maybe because like he was talking on his shows like that he's already done so many debates about it. Maybe he thought that there wasn't anything more to be added. But again, I said it earlier in this show, like I'm very impressed with Sami that even though he has a strong bag bias, he's been seemingly fair in his coverage of this good die. So I sent him the link, but he chose not to use it. Um, I think the theory on this would be that if the sacrificers, if they get their unlock and they dump the price down really low, then then you could see if people are still interested and buy it back up, then you could see lots of green candles, and that would be the best marketing for like the old PDI people. If their price isn't moving as much and they don't have as much volatility, that might be what attracts them. But again, the point of the sacrifice was to make it less popular so that you would have more people to participate later when they can actually affect the price instead of people just sacrificing for something. And how does that help the price? And how does that help the movement and like the big idea here of like creating something that's more than just PvP, creating something that is a positive sum game. Yeah, the solution was announced quickly because if you remember, the price of Pulse Chain and Hex was going down 5 or 10% every day, day after day after day after day after day. And so that is why I, you know, dedicated myself to this issue around the clock for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, somewhere in there. I think it was 3 weeks. So yeah, I put in like hundreds of hours, like low hundreds of hours, because there's like not that many hundreds of hours of time in 3 weeks. Um, why isn't Hex being shilled majority of the staking years thus far? Um, this is a criticism that I get. It's like, why don't you talk about core tickers? Well, um, why don't you talk about core tickers? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? And then you can talk about what you want, and I'll talk about what I want. And like I saw an emergency where Pulse Chain was literally bleeding out to zero, like on the path to zero when we were dropping 10% a day, day after day after day. And so sometimes in emergency, you have to deal with the emergency, and then you can go back to normal. So, um, but that's once you have a solution. When do we get back to the hex therapy here? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, a lot of what we're dealing with now is a meta form of therapy. It's teachable moments. It's on Tuesday night when when Medium, the website went down and it didn't, so people couldn't access the instructions immediately, even though then I made a PDF and sent it on the Telegram. Like, you know, the instructions say to download the instructions, but it's a teachable moment for Hex because with Hex, that's true DeFi, and you can download the front end onto your computer. So if you haven't done that yet, you are not practicing true DeFi, or at least like for me, I prefer to know how to run the code off of Etherscan and PulseScan as my backup. Um, so that's cool. But and then also just like, you know, go back through all the 229 episodes of Hex Therapy Live, and like you will see, talking about the basics, getting more advanced. So like now we're onto some more advanced shit, and because um, basically because like new people, if you make content for only new people, then the old people, they will move on to something else. And like this is more like a master class, like a PhD education type thing, and like, being on the cutting edge of stuff. And it's easy for people to like start off with new content creators, like, people who make content for new people. They can, you know, they can get people started and get up to speed, and then people can graduate to the, this type of content. But I make content for advanced users, and if you um I mean, uh I think that's why so many millionaires and maybe even a small number of billionaires watch the show, is because we're trying to do cutting edge stuff here, like, you know um but a lot of it's kind of like meta. And then I do write ups. Like if you search for my like thread of write ups about Maddie token, you can learn a lot about liquidity things that nobody's ever taught us before. Like, Richard hasn't taught us that stuff yet. Um, it's really interesting theory. And whenever I do um, see these Maddie OA address addresses and the PDI addresses, whenever I see those simulating stuff that the OA has done and like doing some things a little bit differently and everything, like as I see that play out over the past like year of Matty token and weeks now with like the PDI game theory and everything, that seems really valuable. Like to see what the sentiment and what like the participation is like when you do sacrifice at the bottom versus doing a sacrifice at the top. We didn't know that. We did not know. We did not know what would happen if you did a sacrifice at a bottom versus, and now we've had two sacrifices at a bottom. We had a bottom about almost a year and a half ago now in the RH ecosystem. And that's when the Maddie sacrifice happened. And the Maddie sacrifice address uh, bought the Pico bottom of Hex. Like at a Deci discount of 50%. Like it wasn't even close uh, to say that that address got the best deal of Hex that ever happened, you know, this side of 55 cents. So, um, yeah. So like, and there's been lessons learned there of like, oh, instead of having to buy the Maddie token and like rely on some like dream of like a middleman OA or somebody doing something for you. Like you could have just copy traded that account. Like that would have been the best move you could have made this cycle. So you're welcome. Like gosh, I wish more people appreciated but part of the definition of being in a bottom is that people don't appreciate things. Um, and part of being at the top means that people are delusionally euphoric and will believe things that are not even close to true. So, who created the new teddy bear token on Pulse Chain? I don't know. B Roots says that it wasn't him, but I think that's just a legal loophole because it seems like he profits a lot from things that he talks about and gets, uh, like probably has some like sniping arrangement set up or something. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, like the people who criticize me sometimes the most, who are the most public about it, you know, they're the ones who maybe you want to look at closely. If you look at me closely and you look at them closely, well, I know if you look at me closely that all checks out. Do you think the old exploited PDI hurt our chances of getting on a major exchange? That was the conversation before this civil war popped off over PDI. Yes, absolutely. That's what I was 100. I was 100% focused before this on getting us on a centralized exchange, and now our chances are lower, and that's why we need to let this plan play out with the new PDI because again, I'll say it again. If the coins get unlocked and the price goes down a lot a week from now, like a lot, then um, then you can do more X's on the way up. Like you had so much belief by so few people in the beginning to sacrifice. Well, maybe somebody will be there to pick up the pieces after the only inflation event ever happens. Like, given that the OA doesn't sell its 55 billion that it has, like the Pulse X OA. We have so many OAs these days. It's gonna get a little confusing, but yeah, I mean, you already went up. You already from 3 cents went up like 88x, and now you came down. Like 20x or something. No, less than that. I mean, it's at like, what is it at? So like 20 cents or 40 cents or something for the new PDI. Let me look here. 28 cents. Um, yeah, so you might see that liquidity dry up from people selling. You might see the unlocks happen. This is one of the only tokens where you have a chart of future supply because uh, Time Pays Me puts a 7 day time lock on you when you claim your tokens, and so the people who are holding liquid can see the people moving their coins to become liquid in 7 days, and so that's a really cool mechanic. So will we see 20% of the coins move in the first week? Will we see, you know, less than that, more than that? I don't know. But I also believe on the other side of this, I believe that if this project is successful after it does its big dip and then tries to go back up, maybe that will pull in a lot of people from PDI who are still giving the exploiter money, and then maybe PDI will officially be, the old version, the broken version will officially be dead once that last, because green candles are like an offer that most people can't refuse. And so if this new PDI becomes successful, and then the old PDI, it was the most successful homegrown thing on Pulse Chain. It had, uh, I would say, equal amount of engagement as Hex does in terms of people talking about it, people hitting the like button on Twitter and stuff. Is incredible. So um, I could see this new PDI after it gets through its growing pains. Um, I could see it attracting new participants to Pulse Chain like the old one did. I could see it becoming a cycle one unicorn, 55,000x, like from the bottom, whatever the bottom is going to be. Um, so doesn't mean I'm going to make all that happen because it takes it takes a whole community to do something like that. But hey, at least I'm trying something. So we can get back to working on exchanges. But it might be that good die becomes the impetus for a centralized exchange listing. Sudden global economic change syndrome. Hey, that's a great topic, Yellowtail. There's been a lot of volatility in the market right now, and a lot of people they don't know what to do. And um, yeah, so I think I have a pretty good read on like the what Trump is doing is a master plan and like it should work to get the Fed to lower rates. And I think that things will have to get better by November this year at least because that's when midterm election campaigns start. And like it is scary that like global trade is in the crosshairs. Um, I think that like somebody made a really good point that Chamath like pointed out on Twitter today that like last time we had tariff wars from Trump to China, that's when China released COVID. So I hope they don't do something like that again. Um, so it is scary, um, but I think at the end of the day, the incentives are or could be enough aligned. Somebody said I misread your statement, but I don't remember what it was. Um, yeah, you don't have to download the software that is on pulsechain.com, but it seems pretty safe to me if you're going to the right website. Um, so maybe that's what you're talking about. Been waiting for tariffs to hit since 2001. They are sticking along with the crypto cycle. Dow could drop to 5K real quick with 9/11 2.0. Is Kareem joining this stream? Shout out to you, Kay Hudson. Keep talking. OG P-Dye is dumping. Yikes. Very true. We going extinct. You're doing great, Maddie. Keep going. Hey, I appreciate that. What's going on with the old P-Dye? Did somebody hear about the good one now? Let's see. Um, okay, I have a list of like all the dye versions that are out there now. We got one here. It's a year old and it is down 7% in the past hour. Yep. Um, man, that's still got, see, it's still got 45K of volume just on the pair I'm looking at, which I don't think is the biggest pair. That, you guys, that's still a problem. Like, Pulse Chain is still at risk. And, um, so yeah, I hope my plan works. Like my plan hasn't had a chance to shine yet, but yeah, for all of our sakes, whether you believe me or not, um, I hope we can, yeah, I hope we can get this to stop bleeding out our chain. Um, Down 10% in the last hour. Maybe the fixer bot hasn't, or like the our bots haven't. I need to look for the other die WPLS. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay. I think this is, I need to add this. No, it says I do have that on my watch list. So, oh, that's weird. Oh, wait. No. Oh, okay. Okay. I was, the one that I thought I was just finding was the pump tires one. Okay. So die WPLS. I'm just trying to see if the price is different between these different pairs. Oh, yeah. That is, oh, that's 9-inch V3, has 8.9K liquidity. I don't, hmm, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe it is going down 10% an hour. Oh, down 7. Yep. Yeah. Digital Money Markets is gonna buy more of the dip on PulseX there, and that's my favorite ticker. I got a lot of Hex staked, but PulseX, it's getting more rare every day. So biggest pair has 300K PDI in liquidity with wrapped PLS. It's been around that area ever since the event. Um, Dude, I wish I could find that. I am not able to find that on Dex Screener. I don't know if you can message me that somewhere on like Twitter. I'll drop my Twitter in there just in case you want to shoot me a message with that pair on deck screener because I can't find it. That's something I should know being a broadcaster now about this calamity in Pulse Chain. So um yeah, so thanks guys. It's been the hour has flown by. Um and yeah, so um we've addressed all the drama and the FUD that's out there. We've said that, you know, cooler heads will prevail and um you know, haters gonna hate, but I guess that leaves more opportunity for the people who are really paying attention. So, there you go. Do I have a thumbnail for this that I can load? Let's see. There we go. All right. So, while that's uploading, until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.